Welcome back to Getting Real. This is the show where we go beyond the highlight reel to talk about what it takes to create freedom, wealth, and a life you'll love. I'm your host, Monick Halm, and on today's show, we're diving into a topic that's deeply misunderstood and often misused: debt. Specifically, we're talking about smart debt, how to use other people's money the way the wealthy do, and how to do it in a way that feels aligned, authentic, and even feminine. This episode is for you if you've ever wondered, how are they doing it? How are they buying buildings or starting businesses? And while I'm still paying off that credit card, we're going to break that down. So, first, let's talk about why this matters. I think there are two things that people are most commonly taught about debt that are untrue and that keep them from using debt wisely. The first thing that, some of us are taught is don't use debt at all. Avoid it at all costs. It's terrible. It's something to be feared. It's, all debt is bad debt. I mean, and then others are taught, oh yeah, like you want debt, you want credit cards, you want credit, like use the debt. But we don't learn to use debt wisely. We're taught to use credit cards to buy shoes and purses and and trips, fancy trips and things like that. Pay the minimum down and keep on spending, right? So we're using debt for liabilities, not as assets, not to build our wealth, right? So here's what I want to say loud and clear. Debt is not inherently bad. Debt is a tool. It's a tool like fire. It can cook your food or it can burn down your house. It's how you use it that matters. And people who understand debt, who use debt to create wealth, the wealthiest amongst us, they use leverage, another word for debt, to amplify their results. They use other people's money, whether that other people's money is from the bank, from investors, from partners, but they use OPM, other people's money, to build portfolios, fund businesses, and scale with speed. That is a tool that I was taught to use, and it made all the difference. But most women are not taught how to do this. So today I want to help you flip the script. First, let's talk about the difference between good debt and bad debt. And in order to understand this, it helps to talk about the difference between assets, and how I define assets is something that puts money into your pocket versus a liability, which is something that takes money out of your pocket, right? So, bad debt pulls from your future to pay for your past, right? So, if you're using that credit card to buy those red bottom shoes, right? Like that's taking it out of your pocket, right? Shopping splurges, car loans, things that lose value over time. This is debt for liabilities. It drains your energy and it drains your resources. That is bad debt. Good debt or smart leverage is debt that you use to buy assets, things that create income or increase in value, like rental property or business, or even investing in your own growth, right? So that is money you're spending that's going to make you money. It comes back with a return. It's debt that works for you, not against you. So I want to talk about, and one of the greatest things about real estate is that it is very well situated for using leverage, as opposed to, let's say, stocks and bonds. So generally, if you want to buy $100,000 worth of stocks, you're going to put $100,000 into a brokerage account to buy those stocks. If you want to buy a $100,000 property, you might only need to put down 25% or 10% or 3.5%, or sometimes zero, no money down. So that is often using bank, right? So with a bank, that kind of leverage, you can use it. But I remember when I learned about working with investors, and that was a huge game changer for me. So before that, all I knew was that you could get a property with a bank loan, right? And I had bought my first house, which had more than one unit. I lived in one, I rented out the others. Those tenants were putting money into my pocket. It was an asset. I used leverage to do that. And that was awesome. But I didn't when I stopped working as a lawyer and I was flipping houses, and I actually had enough money in the bank to buy houses outright, right? But it was really hard to get a bank loan because on paper, we weren't, our taxes, we weren't showing consistent, regular income. Right? We were flipping houses and we would get chunks of money. And literally, we had the money to buy a house out all cash. And we were ending up doing that because we couldn't get a conventional loan. And I didn't realize that there were other ways of doing this. And I ended up meeting this guy, Robert Helms, who had become my mentor. And I was telling him that I was looking for a fourplex in LA. There were issues about that being in LA. It was like not cash flowing, but also it's like I couldn't get a loan to get to buy that type of property. And he said, "Oh, it's yeah, that's the problem. You're limited to your own capital and credit." He said, "Alternatively, you could bring a group of investors together and you could buy a 100 or 200 unit apartment building." And he started telling me about that. My mind was blown. Like, what? That's a thing? First of all, I thought you had to be a billionaire to buy a 100 unit or 200 unit. I had no idea that real people could do that. And then it's like, investors, that people would just give money for that. But I had this full body, yes, this is what I want to do. And I learned how to do this. I knew that it was hard for me to get traditional leverage because of my situation. And then I learned about that there were all these people that want you to use their money and help it to grow and come back with friends. So when I learned about this and learned how to do it, I went off, and in a year, I went from having 2 rental doors to over 1,000 by getting investors, partnering with people to buy larger commercial properties. It was a complete game changer. It literally allowed me to quantum leap, and it changed everything. And so at first, the thinking about that was like asking people if they wanted to invest. And I was asking for big checks, 50,000, 100,000 plus, right? That was terrifying, but it doesn't have to be scary. It can be empowering because, and there's this, and part of what is really empowering is to have this feminine approach to attracting capital. I think that often there's a masculine way of showing up, which is, pitch deck, pressure, persuasion. Um, it's about it's very transactional, and that feels icky. But the feminine way emphasizes connection, conversation, collaboration, co-elevation. Instead of trying to convince or close, it's about enrolling the right people through a shared vision and resonance. It's about being magnetic, not pushy. So that's how I'm teaching women to raise money. That is what I eventually figured out. That's not about pressure. It's about presence and power. It's about helping other people to accomplish their goals. So people are, when you're talking about OPM, it kind of sounds like you're going and you're trying to steal other people's money or get one over on them or somehow convince them to give you money. But people are going to invest because they have desires and goals and they want their money working for them. And if they believe that you have a solution that will help their money work better for them, then that's why they want to invest. And that's how we've gotten tens of millions of dollars of investment dollars over the years because people want that, right? And if they feel that you can help them get that, then they will invest with you. Um, I remember I had a group of goddesses that I helped do a sub syndication, and they got together and they were very empowered because between them, they were able to raise $500,000 for this deal. And at first that was terrifying, right? They thought they had to be perfect, slick, buttoned up. Um, and they learned that it wasn't about perfection. It was about having a vision. It was about being open and vulnerable. And it was about finding people who would lean in and resonate with what they were offering. And then it wasn't about them like being different people. It was them about them becoming more themselves, more authentic. And that's what made them magnetic. And that's what allowed them to raise $500,000. So, it's really important that when we're talking about leverage and debt, we move from shame, because there's a lot of like negative, toxic energy around debt. And sometimes investors can come in as equity. So they're co-owners, and sometimes they come in as debt and you're paying them interest. And sometimes people feel different if it's equity versus debt, but either way, it, it's about you helping their money make money. Um, so it's important to stop shaming ourselves around that idea of debt. The goal isn't to avoid debt, it's to understand it and to use it wisely, right? So that means using debt to acquire income producing assets, right? So and I'll give an example, right? So if you can borrow money at 6% and you put it into an asset that is making 15%, right? That differential, that's you making money off of that OPM. And why would people give you money? Because their money is making 6%, right? So banks are in the business, that's their business. They make money by lending money. And smart investors, they make money by having their money go out and work for them, right? So you want you want your money making money, and so that's a way to do it. So that's why people want to invest, right? They want to find really great investments, and that is what you're able to do. So you want it's a very win-win. It helps you, it helps them. So you want to use debt to acquire income generating assets. You want to, and when you're doing this though, know your numbers and your exit strategy. You want to really understand how it's all working, right? Because you don't want to borrow debt. Let's say you're going to get some debt that's at 7%, 6 or 7%, but then you're putting it into an asset that's making 4%. That does not make sense, right? Because then you're borrowing at a higher rate to to make less. You really want to understand how the numbers work. Like, does this make money? You want to use the money to make money. If it's not making money, if it's not making dollars, it doesn't make sense. So you want to understand your numbers, and you want to understand your exit strategy. What are different ways that you can get out of this debt, right? Pay it back and pay it off. And ideally have multiple ways, right? You want to be a really great steward of this money, especially when it's other people's money, because you're um, a and especially when it's not like banks, and it's people, friends, and family, right? I think if you don't lose a little bit of sleep At night sometimes, make wanting to make sure that it works and comes back to them with friends, right? Then you shouldn't be taking their money. So you want to be a really great steward of other people's money. You want to understand how you're going to care for it and how you're going to return it, and whether that is a loan that you have from the bank and how you can make sure that you're paying it off on time every month, or or that's it's a friend. However it is, you want to really know what you're doing with that money, and you want to get legal and financial guidance as needed. So when you are taking investors' money, it often is it's a legal thing, and that can fall under the Securities and Exchange Commission. I'm not going to go into all of that right now. Just understand that depending on how you are taking other people's money, right, what the structure is that you're doing that, um, it there are some very specific laws that you have to follow. So you really don't want to do this without the proper legal guidance and the proper financial guidance, the proper tax guidance. When you are, again, you want to be a really great steward of other people's money, and you want to do this legally, because it could end up with you having some free housing and clothing, like orange jumpsuit. Like it could get you into legal trouble if you don't do this well, right? You can get fined or have jail time, and it's not fun. So definitely tread carefully. This is a really great tool, but like fire, can cook your dinner or burn your house down. So you really want to understand how to use this well. Um, and most and one of the most important things is always, as part of our Goddess secret sauce, we want to use our intuition alongside our analysis, right? So there's an intuitive sense to of who do we want to have invest alongside of us? Who do we want? How do we want to do this, right? So there is a very wise inner guide that we have access to. So we want to tap into that and trust it. And when something feels off, trust that and back away. So, smart debt is about becoming a wealth steward, someone who uses money, including other people's money, with wisdom, alignment, and integrity. So, I want to share. I'm going to give like a little sneak preview of something that I've been quietly working on behind the scenes. This is a new experience, a new program to help women raise capital with confidence and clarity. It's called the Goddess Capital Collective, a 90-day journey for women who want to raise their first $1 million in capital in a way that feels true to who they are, that honors them. It's still coming together, but if you're intrigued and wanting to bring in investor capital, because I'll tell you what, goddesses, it feels pretty effing awesome when you have a list of investors and you have a deal and you send out an email, and within 24 hours you have 7 figures worth of like money raising their hand saying, yeah, I'm in. Right? It's really nice to have that all there before you have the deal, to know that the money is there and ready. And there are people that are like, heck yeah, just let me know when you got something because I'm ready. Right? It is very, very empowering to have that. There's nothing like, it's just like seeing the wires come in. It's like 50,000, 100,000, right? $1 million, right? It's crazy. So it's very empowering, and really allows you to scale and make a big difference and help others, because the OPM, those other people that are giving you their money, they're giving that to you because they want their money doing something for them. They want their money working for them, and you get to do that for them. You get to help them. And it's very win, win, win. So that's coming. So if that is something that is intriguing to you, stay close, pay attention, make sure you're on our email list. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast so that you will be the first to know. This first beta round that we're doing, it's very limited in terms of the numbers of goddesses that will be invited. So make sure that you're on the first to know list. Okay. So that is this our episode. We're going to end with our famed end of show Trinity, which is a brag, a gratitude, and a desire. So I brag, man, I brag like having an investor list with thousands of people on it, and mostly women. And I brag having, just being able to raise money with an email. It's really cool. And I brag having created a system and structure where people come to me to get on my email list. By the way, if you want to get on our investor list, you can go to the website, reigoddesses.com, and click on Investor Club, fill that out, and then you'll get on a call with me. And I'll learn more about who you are as an investor, what you're looking for, what you want to do, and then you'll be on the list to find out about these opportunities that help your money make money, help your money come back with friends. So that is, but I brag that I've created that, and that it's super awesome. It's been super awesome. So I'm grateful for all of our investors, and I'm grateful for my mentors and the lessons that help me stop fearing debt and start using it strategically. I'm really grateful for all of those lessons. And my desire is that for every woman listening to feel resourced, powerful, and free when it comes to attracting capital and building wealth. I want every woman to be able to do this in a way that aligns with her. And if you felt listening to this, that yes, like that full body yes that I felt when I first heard about investors, I desire that you join our Goddess Capital Collective and that we get to play together and do this. Because I feel like that is the next level, and for so many other women, but we're just not taught how to do this in a way that feels good. So that's my desire. Thank you for getting real with me today. If you love this episode and you think that there's a woman who needs to hear it, please share it with her. Please share. And if you have had this shared with you, if somebody said, "Hey, I think you need to hear this," thank that person who shared this with you, because they love you, and they want you to grow and scale. And so thank them. And thank you for being here. Again, if you want to be on that first to know when the Goddess Capital Collective opens up, make sure you're on our list. And until next time, stay real, stay radiant, and remember, you don't need to do it all yourself. You just need to be willing to receive support. And that support is there for you. It's here for you. All right, goddesses. See you next time. Bye-bye.